Medigroup Physician Services presents Medigroup's Frank's Fast Five with Healthcare Executives, produced by Bridget Wilson and Carrie Peters. Today's guest is Tom Coy, who serves in two senior leadership positions with TMG International and TMG Health Technologies. Now here's your host, Medigroup's Frank Gillespie.
Hello, and welcome once again to another edition of Medigroup's Frank's Fast Five with Healthcare Executives. Before we join with today's guest, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. That's right. Thank you for your views and support of Frank's Fast Five. It's truly a continuing pleasure and honor to have the opportunity to not only talk with all of you, but also so rewarding to see your comments and to have your support of these branding communications related to Medigroup's fantastic suppliers. We honestly look forward to sharing more interviews with you in 2022 related to our awesome contacts and connections in the healthcare arena. And now, let's turn our attention to our guest for today. We're here with Tom Coy, who serves in two senior leadership positions with TMG International and TMG Health Technologies. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Frank. It's great to be with you.
And likewise, I appreciate you taking the time. We've worked together for a number of years now, and I really kind of think this is one of the first times that we've actually got to be face-to-face. It's usually over the phone or via email. So
it's a different kind of phone call, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So thank you for taking your time. I promised you we wouldn't waste your time, and we're going to jump right into those questions. So, Tom, in your senior leadership roles with TMG, what do you specifically do for both TMG International and TMG Health Technologies and its customers?
Well, thanks, Frank. So TMG International is the sales and marketing organization of TMG Enterprises, if you will. And so for them, I'm kind of a utility man. I will be the director of, say, business development. So I'll go out and seek KOLs, or is that right? Key opinion leaders, as well as industry experts and so forth, to make sure that we have a good message, that the message is on track, that we have the right studies behind things, et cetera. And then I establish sales organizations and make sure that they have the same information that we have so that they can go down the line and make sure that things work that way. So that's international.
Okay.
TMG Health Technologies is the manufacturing, distribution, R&D, engineering. What else? Factory service center for us out in Las Vegas. So we have about a 100,000 square foot manufacturing site out there where the rapid decontamination systems are made. And we'll talk about those later, Frank, I guess, at some point. Yeah.
Very good. Tom, I appreciate that. And I know just on the last contract that you and I put together, the prep and the things that you did in advance to get us ready was extremely helpful. So thank you for that very much. And it matches exactly what you just said. So question number two, with your extensive healthcare industry experience and background, how has such background shaped your thinking and approach in today's healthcare environment?
Wow. So big question there. I'll try to shrink it down a little bit if I can, Frank.
Sure, absolutely.
I guess the way my thinking has been shaped over the years is that I look at my world in two ways. There's a finite amount of things that I know, and there's obviously an infinite number of things that I'll never know. I don't even know what to ask. I'm just ignorant of all of that type of thing. So where I can control my world with a finite access of information that I have, I'll reach out to groups like Medigroup, because you expand my bubble of knowledge. And so likewise, my sales organization or other folks out there, but the GPOs to me are a great resource for expanding my bubble of information. So I look at the world that way. That's how it's shaped my thinking. I would make the editorial comment, if I could, that I think that health systems out there are extremely well saturated with very bright people, and they know what they're doing. But even they have a finite amount of information that they're working with. I would just request that they explore the opportunity to deal with their vendor partners who have a focus on just the solutions that are being brought to the table as another item that they can refer to, expanding their bubble of information to make the best decisions possible.
Very fascinating. Great answer, Tom. I mean, really building upon the expertise of a group of folks and putting together a product that becomes useful for a myriad of folks. So that's really, really fascinating. Thank you for that. And Tom, question number three, in your experience over the years, how has selling changed? And also, how has it stayed the same?
Oh gosh, so let's stay with how it's kind of stayed the same. I think that there has to be a clinical story that makes a lot of sense, that adds efficiencies, improves outcomes, efficacy, and so forth, that there has to be backed by studies, peer reviews, patient and customer experiences. And of course, the vitality of a GPO contract, I think, also adds some of that. They've been vetted by a third party that the member is part of, and so they will appreciate that. The last part, I guess, is that there needs to be a financial story, a value proposition that does, in fact, demonstrate or outline the tangible financial benefit that the end user gets by using the technology. So those, I think, are pretty much the same. How that information gets to the buyer, the sourcing manager, and so forth is different today. I think that we would both agree. I mean, I've got the color of my hair here is a little bit different than it used to be. And so we think that the Gen Zers, Gen Xs out there, which are really great at what they do, but there's not that personal interface that takes place between a salesperson and the end user. I think we all recognize that. So the burden on the manufacturer, the marketing group, is to make sure that we have a very strong message that is understood by that buyer, so we get that next level of attention. So I think that those are the differences right now. It's just getting in front of customers and having access to them. And you can imagine, Frank, with the pandemic,
oh my gosh,
all types of things that have shut the world down, that it's now, dealing in a whole new world. So that's a quick answer for you.
That's a great answer, and I really appreciate that. And it leads nicely into question number 4, because question number 4 is an example of what you just said. Through TMGI, Medigroup has contracted for the Pulse for Pulse program. Talk about Pulse for us.
Well, that'd be a pleasure. So let me share a little bit about my bubble with Pulse for Pulse. I'll put it that way. So this is not a complete thing. We have a lot of resources that you're aware of as well. As you stated, TMGI is the representative of Pulse for Pulse to the Medigroup GPO and other GPOs, but we just really enjoy working with you, and I'll
thank you.
Some reasons after this once we get there. But the P4P program is a service. It's not a product, and it services physician practices, solo physician practices, and we'll focus on the primary care physician right now because I think it's just an easy, a lay down in terms of understanding it. So anyway, what the P4P service does is it provides the early detection of chronic illnesses in the otherwise asymptomatic patient. So it uses a series of 3 main tests. There's a pseudomotor test, an autonomic nervous system test, and an ankle brachial index test. And in combination, these tests are going to grab over 400 data points. And these data points are going to be analyzed by the secret sauce, which is really the P4P proprietary algorithm. And this algorithm will be able to grab all of this information, assimilate it, and be able to determine if the patient is in fact suffering from some kind of complex pain disorder or peripheral artery disease or something that is undetectable in the normal course of practice. So it's a breakthrough technology that allows us to see new things about that patient, enhancing the relationship between the primary care physician and their patient to take proactive steps to keep them out of the hospital or out of more, I should say, care that's going to come eventually anyway, because we don't know what that disease state may be. So anyway, that's a kind of what goes on within Pulse for Pulse from a clinical perspective. So it's really a great tool. Now, the challenges in the industry today are that there's a shortage of staff members out there to perform these tests. So P4P provides the staff member to do this. They become a part of the family of the physician's office out there to conduct these tests, schedule the test, run the reports for the physician, and they're really hand in hand with that entire group to make sure that the patient is getting the best testing available, the reporting available, and so forth. The other challenge out there is the medical cost ratio, the medical expense ratio. And so health insurance industries are also always calculating the medical expenses paid by the insurer against the total premiums received. So right now, so far, the medical expense ratio for the P4P service is very positive to the practice. So that's a very important aspect of how things are put together for the end user. Now, there's also things like the equipment is provided upfront at no expense. The reimbursement program, whether it's Medicare or private pay, we have a liaison who can do the work with the practice, or we can do the practice work for ourselves. So I think what you're seeing here is that there's a new initiative, and we'll call it a true risk share program, where P for P, Pulse for Pulse, provides all of those resources that I described for you, and they share in the revenue that comes back from the reimbursed party. And there's 5 CPT codes that are reimbursed. So these folks really have a great handle on the clinical, the studies that back up the results that we get, and of course the financial value. And the financial value kind of comes down to as many as just 5 patients a day, extrapolated over to so many patients per month, patients per year, times an average reimbursement rate nationally of about $170 to the practice, which is pure profit. That comes out to about $200,000 of profit to the practice per year. And they're not making any investment, yet they're able to improve, we think, the patient interface. So that's P for P. One of the things I wanted to mention that you've done for us is that you brought on the P for P team. This is a physician, the CEO, as well as the administrative director in a meeting with them that took about a half an hour to lay all of this information out. So what I'm describing here in Frank's Fast Five is a real quick view of what they've done. And I know that you're going to be posting this or providing this information to the Medigroup members. So we just would appreciate very much that the Medigroup members take a look at this, because it's extremely informative. And I wanted to thank you and Bridget for putting all that together for us.
Absolutely, Tom. It's a pleasure. And ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, Tom is very comprehensive. Sold us put together a nice program. There's a lot of moving parts, as he says, but you can see the value proposition at the end of the day for the physician with no upfront costs. So a lot of value to this contract. And this gentleman here did a fantastic job in showing us how it worked and continues to do that. So Tom, okay, we made it. Last question. What do you like to do in your downtime?
Well, Frank, I like to do a lot of things, but I'll confess to you that ever since I was 12 years old, I've been infatuated with the guitar. And I'm a terrible guitar player, but I just love it. Now, YouTube is a blessing to me, because I would never have made any progress with the guitar without YouTube. So I will I will set aside an hour every Saturday, or sometimes even more often, to listen to one instructor. Her name is Angela Petrelli. And Angela's takes an hour to go through a song. And her saying, if I can find it here, is, go slow before you go fast, because I love to play fast. So I always have to practice slow. And I think that that's just a good, kind of philosophy for life, is go slow before you go fast. So anyway, that's one of my passions, is just to try to learn to play. Again, my bubble here, in terms of, my finite information, I'm just really at the bottom. I'm a banger. But if I look at people like Tommy Emmanuel, that I would recommend people look up to listen to, or Billy Strings, Molly Tuttle, that's the creme de la creme, and it just goes, you'll never get there, but they are just so wonderful to listen to. So that's what I like to do in my downtime.
Fascinating, Tom. Fascinating. Well, I wish you all the great luck in learning to play even more and enjoy yourself with regard to that. And Tom, I can't thank you again for your time today and a fascinating.
This has been Medigroup's Frank's Fast Five with Healthcare Executives, produced by Bridget Wilson and Carrie Peters, and hosted by Frank Gillespie. Special thanks to Tom Coy, who serves in 2 senior leadership positions with TMG International and TMG Health Technologies. This has been a presentation of Medigroup Physician Services.